Hi everyone, Evan here at the Chronicle for May 25th, 2020, where the future starts today. In this video, we're going to cover this article that was released on Zero Hedge last night, as well as give my thoughts as to what's going on from a socioeconomic standpoint in the big cities over the last couple of months. And now to the article. Young people rushing to leave big cities in favor of less infected suburbia. There's no doubt that the long-lasting impact of the coronavirus pandemic will include a major shift in how consumers look at home buying. In fact, I've already reported here on Zero Hedge about how many are leaving the city in favor of life in the suburbs, since the virus has spread faster in city areas. Now, it looks as though the younger generation is following the cues of the older generation in doing the same. The effects can be pronounced, especially since the younger generation was responsible for the boom in many US cities over the last decade. And then here's the story of Desiree Duff, who's a bartender from New York City who lived in Brooklyn and has now moved in back with her parents down in South Carolina, and is essentially wondering whether life in New York is really worth it for her because the chances of infection are a lot less. Now here's the thing, I'm going to elaborate on this later on in the video, but all I'm going to say for right now is, as I've mentioned many times on this channel, the virus is the trigger, but not the cause. But from a socioeconomic standpoint though, it's a lot more complicated than just excessive debt or living beyond your means. More on that in a second. Her move, by the way, that's Desiree Duff, the lady you mentioned before, that was the NYC bartender who moved back with her folks in South Carolina, is a microcosm of a larger shift for the younger generation, which is leaving apartments empty in cities across the US. Deniz Karamanır, sorry if I butchered that name, the founder of data-driven real estate brokerage Atlasa, said, "The draw of the city is the social life, the dating scene, bars, restaurants, the ability to do fun things on the weekend. Without those attractions, it makes a lot of sense to just abandon ship and go back to your parents." Now that last paragraph in the article here, I wanted to use that to further elaborate on my point earlier. The virus was the trigger for a massive spike in unemployment like we've seen in the last few months. With the massive spike in unemployment, many people have either A, seen a massive reduction in income, or B, in some cases, a complete loss of income. Now the whole part about the social life there, yes, there is the peer pressure, more on that in a second, but of course because of the virus, in many cities around the world, to be honest, bars and restaurants were closed, so you couldn't go out anyhow. But think about the pressure when you're unemployed for a second for any other reason. You're in the big city. There's still that peer pressure to go out, to have that social life. But what does that social life cost? A lot of money. Another point I wanted to mention while we're on this topic that wasn't really mentioned in the article itself. People had no savings going into this. Even if it wasn't the depression we're in now, even if it was a normal recession or we saw a simple spike in unemployment, this problem here would have come to the surface. And in a big city, expensive cost of living, big peer pressure to have that social life, what do you think would happen anyways? And to the people in the big cities, one thing this virus has let them all know is whether it's because of the pandemic-induced shutdown, or it's simply the fact that you're unemployed, you don't have as much money coming in, hence you're not going to have the social life you did before, and really you're not going to be out besides getting the bare essentials. Think about it. If you're stuck in your apartment more often, where's the only place you can go for any sort of fresh air? It's the balcony right off your kitchen. That's all you have. If you're outside the city, you can have a plot of land, you can have a backyard, you can have somewhere to go to that isn't your house every now and again. People are starting out to really value that. And then you add on top of all this, the work from home crowd that suddenly emerged the last couple of months, and they realize, I can leave the big city, have a lot more for a lot less, have land, have a house, heck, be able to even start a family one day for Pete's sake. Hence, there's more to life than a little apartment and the constant hustle and bustle to make ends meet. Which leads me to the next point in the article, which are stats from one of the most expensive cities in the world, San Francisco. Charlie Goss, Government and Community Affairs Manager at the San Francisco Apartment Association said, "It's a really hard time for the renter, but it's a really hard time for the housing provider too." Ghost conducted a survey and found that 17% of landlords in the San Francisco area have either had tenants break leases or give 30-day move-out notices. Folks, if you're in the British Commonwealth, as Mike Martins has mentioned many times on his videos, coming to a major city in the British Commonwealth near you. And to be honest, that last paragraph I just mentioned was my main inspiration for doing this video. Not only for the few people that sent me this article, thank you so much to who did, by the way, but Mike Martins, who I mentioned earlier, has a live stream Trends in the Housing Market he does every Wednesday night. On the live stream about 2.5 months ago, I called into the show, and one of the questions that Mike asked me is, "Evan, if you're in a condo and we're in the lockdown, what do you do?" I simply mentioned, be sure to have a place to go to that has land. Folks, what's happening here is people are seeing with that land they can have a much higher quality of life than having the constant hustle and bustle in the big city just working to make ends meet. Okay? That's really all there is to it. And then the last point I'm going to mention here real quick. There's a story of Alexa Lewis, a 24-year-old living in San Fran when the city was locked down. By the end of April, all her roommates left, and she was stuck with a $4,900 a month rent. Whoever Alexa is, I'm hoping now she's learned the valuable lesson. She doesn't have to be in such tight quarters to have independence and still be able to make ends meet. That's all I'm going to say on that one. I've been going on long enough. That's all I'm going to say. Smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, follow both my accounts on Twitter, and as always, my name is Evan. This is the Machronicle, where the future starts today.